Exactly what a low trust society looks like. Sure, the rules are there. The rules are there on paper. But nobody gives a shit in India. You've probably seen the videos yourself, guys, when the train pulls up and everybody's fighting to get on and the train's not even stopped yet.
हे गाइस, मैं हूं तस्कीर और हम इस वीडियो में देखने वाले हैं कि एक कैलम अब्रोड कर बंदा है जो विदेशी है। आई थिंक ये इंडिया घूमने आए होंगे, तो एक वीडियो अभी इन्होंने हाल फिलहाल में डाला है, एक्सपोजिंग इंडिया सुपर पावर मिथ, इंडिया फटीग। इस वीडियो में आखिर ये बोलना क्या चाह रहे हैं, क्या कह रहे हैं, वो हम देखेंगे इस वीडियो में। सो लेट्स गो।
They say India is a very polarizing place. Some people love it, some people hate it. I think I'm leaning towards hating it right now. It's the most polluted country I've ever been in, hands down, not even close.
It's currently 6 a.m. In the middle of the street is exactly what you see. Well, it's shit. There's shit everywhere in the middle of the street.
मिडिल ऑफ द स्ट्रीट कहाँ पर?
Guys just pissing on the street. Just everywhere's a public toilet in India, apparently.
ये तो है।
This place, man.
पहले तो
India
कहीं
still
बोला
sucks,
था।
guys.
Everyone says you go to India to find yourself, but what nobody tells you is that it breaks you down.
Don't go outside if you're a female and you're by yourself. He put his arm around me and twisted my nipples so hard that it wasn't even like he was trying not to be noticed. Like he was trying to hurt me. That's
God, ये तो बहुत ही बदतमीजी
I'm
का
sorry to
किस्सा
say
बताया
sorry
है
to
इसने।
all my Indian friends, but India sucks. Don't ever come here.
Do you know what I've noticed, guys? Anytime I post a video of Pakistan, a picture of Pakistan, my comments usually come from India, and it usually says, "Sir, Pakistan's rubbish, Pakistan's rubbish, India's a superpower, we're a superpower." As if India is the best country on earth. Well, secretly, half of them at least probably are trying to apply for visas to get out of the country. India fatigue is very real, guys. Let's talk about it. So I've been to India 3 times.
3 बार।
And I've had some amazing times in India. And when I speak to my Indian friends, believe it or not, I've got Indian friends, even though the trolls might not believe that, even they tell me about the current government and what they've did to India. But whenever a foreigner seems to mention this online, they get attacked, and all the comments are, "Incredible India, incredible India." Meanwhile, they're all trying to find a way out, or most of them. Now, everybody knows Indians complain about India almost daily. And the visa applications for the US, Australia, the UK, Germany are exponential. Why would that be if they are such a superpower? The moment you land in India, everything becomes a battle. Sometimes literally. Firstly, you'll have to battle with the people on the plane who are rushing to get to the front of the plane to get off the plane. Then you'll have to battle with the taxi driver who's driving up the wrong side of the road as if it's very normal, as if the rules don't apply. And don't get me started on the metro system in India. Chaos. Utter chaos. Instantly, before you even get to the hotel, the mental strain starts to take its toll. And this is exactly what a low trust society looks like. Sure, the rules are there. The rules are there on paper. But nobody gives a shit in India. You've probably seen the videos yourself, guys, when the train pulls up and everybody's fighting to get on and the train's not even stopped yet and people are trying to get on. You've seen it. And some Indians will leave comments, "It's just cultural, it's just cultural." Well, Japan's got a culture. You don't see them driving up the wrong side of the road or pushing old ladies out of the way to get onto the train. Is that a cultural thing? I believe culture is a mirror image of how you are as a human being. The rules and law of order are very easy for a government to implement. But it's the society themselves, it's the people that choose not to follow them. I'm not even going to say my country, okay? Let's look at Scandinavian countries. They don't have armies of police policing people, making sure that they don't dump lots of rubbish into the rivers or driving up the wrong side of the road. They don't have armies of police controlling that. But the people, and I dare say that if someone in Denmark decided to dump a load of rubbish into a local river, they would probably get away with it. They would get away with it. But they don't do it. Why? Because they don't want to live in a shithole. That's the truth. They don't want to live in a shithole. They want to take care of their country and their surroundings. They take pride in keeping their country clean and civilised. In India, rules do exist, but everyone thinks they're exempt from it. Take last December in Delhi, for example. The government brought in a strict new pollution rule. Pollution under control certificate. Very simple. You get yourself a certificate and you're able to get petrol from the petrol station. If you've got no certificate, you get no petrol. Older vehicles weren't even allowed into the city. Delhi has got some of the worst pollution levels on the entire planet. So you would think people would be all for it. Yeah, let's do something about it. Maybe help the next generation. Give them a chance. But no, did they listen? Did they shit? The petrol stations kept pumping the fuel like nothing ever happened. And if you think that was just a one-off, it was the exact same story with the no helmet policy.
If you don't wear helmets, get ready to be denied fuel in the state of Uttar Pradesh. This safety measure has just been introduced in a letter addressed to all 75 districts in the state by the Transport
1,000
Commissioner,
rupees
Brajesh
fine.
Narayan Singh.
The government said no helmet, no petrol. Did they listen? Did they hell? You would think that the people of India would go, yeah, that's going to save lives, you know, getting everybody to wear a helmet. That's a pretty good initiative. They didn't listen. The government said no helmet, no petrol. A pretty sensible way to save lives. What did the people do? They started renting helmets for 2 minutes outside of the petrol pump, then handing them back. Only in India. People should look at this and go, that's a good initiative. That might save lives. But not in India. And people might think, why don't the police enforce the rules? Here is the mindset of a lot of people in India. No incentive, no point. So the police salaries in India are fixed. So there's zero incentive for them to try and enforce change. And if the policeman does decide to try and enforce the rules, there's been countless occasions where he's actually been suspended for trying to implement change. In India, everyone has their local goon, or MLA as they call it, goon. And they'll go to him with any problems because he wants the votes. So if enough people in the town go to him and say, oh, the policeman's he's tried to fine me X amount of rupees because I wasn't wearing my helmet or this or that. If they all go to the local MLA, the MLA will go after the policeman because he knows that he would rather get all the votes from the local area to him than that one vote from the policeman. Again, there's this mindset in India. It's not about what you know, it's who you know. Now these trolls that are on the comments, they say, we're a superpower, we're a superpower. They always want to compare themselves next to Pakistan, their smaller neighbour. As many of you know, some of you might be watching this who aren't Pakistani, you aren't Indian. Pakistan and India don't have the best relationship. You'll probably know that. So Indian trolls like to compare themselves to Pakistan, who are not in the best financial situation, let's put it that way. And nor will a Pakistani won't claim that Pakistan's a superpower. None that I know of anyway. They'll openly say that we're not in a good position right now, financially. However, the Indian trolls will be battering down your door to make sure that you know that they're a superpower. So why don't we do something today? Why don't we compare India to their other neighbour, China? They've got the same population, 1.4, 1.5 billion people. Let's take a look. China was once a very poor and largely illiterate country, just like India. But they took a completely different path. Before the British arrived, education in India mainly happened in religious schools or gurukuls that focused heavily on scripture and philosophy. But one of the biggest barriers was the caste system, and only Brahmins were typically allowed to become teachers, and the discrimination based on caste kept millions of children out of any real learning in India. Then came the British. They didn't focus much on primary education for the masses. They invested more in secondary and higher education because they needed Indian civil servants to run the country. So India can't blame the British for everything on that front. Between 1910 and 1940, around 50% of the education spending went to secondary education, even though only about 15% of the country was literate. So you would think after the independence in 1947, India would say, right guys, it's time, let's start investing heavily in our primary education from the ground up. Did they do that? It's India. Of course they didn't. So they kept focusing on colleges and universities. Meanwhile, China took a completely different approach. China took a bottom-up approach. After getting humbled by the Japanese in the war, they decided to scrap their Imperial Civic Service exam in the country. And they decided to focus heavily on education at the primary level. In 1906, they even passed a compulsory education law for children starting at age 7. They prioritised getting every kid into primary school first. Fast forward to 1980, India had around 60% of adults illiterate compared to just 22% in China. Now that early focus on primary education in China gave China a massive head start, massive. The Chinese people were able to move away from farming and into industrial jobs. Cheap labour turned China into the world's factory superpower. Families went from working in the fields to factory jobs and then ultimately became factory owners themselves. So India decided just to focus on the elite, to focus on the few, and they were concentrating on like IIT, that's the Indian Institute of Technology, and they wanted to get into more, they wanted to focus heavily on the technology side, but this is what caused them a lot of problems. So building fancy colleges and universities and focusing heavily on tech, this didn't help the poor people in the country. That top-down approach instead of the bottom-up, that meant they could not scale anywhere compared to China. And you can see that today. So let's go to 1987, which wasn't a million years ago. 62% of Indians and Chinese in the countries were working in the farm industry. Boomerang just 15 years after that, and China had dropped that down to 15%, while India was still at 42% of the country working in the farm industry. You'll often hear the trolls shouting about how Indians are working for OpenAI, Google, Meta, all the top tech companies. And that is true, but when you really look at it, this is what's happening. India are putting huge effort and money into a tiny select group in the country. Of the top 1,000 IIT graduates, around 38% migrate overseas. For the top 100, it's 62%. And for the absolute top 10, around 90% leave India at the first good offer. Every single year, India invests heavily in brilliant minds who then abandon the country. So why hasn't India fixed their education problem in the last 70 years after independence? Between 2015 and 2024, India spent a decent 4.6% of their GDP on education. The problem isn't just the amount, it's how it's spent. And as you'd expect in India, it's often a complete shit show. Money disappears into political rallies, BJP propaganda, or flashy election gimmicks like handing out free laptops for good PR photos. Take this teacher who was interviewed recently in a Rajasthan village. He told the teachers government officials paid a visit to this school, and the teacher said that they only check if the milk is fresh and the meals are okay. They've got zero interest in actual teaching or curriculum. In one surprise inspection in Uttar Pradesh, a Class A English teacher could not speak English. And this all happened on camera. Take a look.
She should be suspended immediately. इसको पढ़ने देगा भाई बच्चों को. Even teacher, she can't read. She can't read English.
So yeah, that's the superpower that we're talking about. And there's still a huge amount of rural schools all across India who don't have access to clean water or toilet facilities. But this is the reality that the trolls do not mention when they're sitting there. We're a superpower, we're a superpower. So there's no getting away from it. India has had huge growth, huge economic growth. So India's GDP numbers have actually outpaced the big dogs like the USA, China, Germany. But this GDP growth is making the gap between the rich and the poor explode. Recent reports show the top 10% of earners now take home a massive share of the country's total income, while the bottom 50% get by on very little. The gap between the ultra-rich and everyone else is growing exponentially. So yes, a few people are getting filthy rich, but for the average person on the streets, the daily grind and stress just keeps getting worse. And that same chaos follows you every day if you live in India. That is India fatigue. You wake up to the noise that doesn't stop, you can taste the pollution, you're fighting just to get on the metro. This is India. Then comes the competition. 1.4 billion people fighting for the same school places, the same college places, hospital appointments, the metro. Everything's a battle in India. And if you fail one exam, people think their life's over. And then you've got the constant corruption. When the police officers demanding chai money, when your politicians are looking for bribes to get anything done or anything signed off. Everything feels like a negotiation. The fatigue. This is why so many Indians are desperate to leave, not because they hate their culture. Let's be honest. It's because it grinds you down. And I've got Indian friends who say the exact same thing.
They hate system.
I hope I get my visa, I can't wait to leave. It just grinds you down and it grinds you down. So this superpower, even though their economy is growing exponentially, that wealth is not getting put into like the middle class. That gap has widened so much. And the people that are defending this the loudest, they're the ones that are quietly filling in visa applications to try and get to Canada or the US, Australia, the UK. They often want to slag the UK. They'll say, oh, the UK is rubbish, this, that, whatever. But secretly, they would take that rubbish UK over what they're getting now in India. That goes without saying. Everybody knows that. So let's just be honest about it. We could be here all day talking about this, guys. Let's just quickly touch on the superpower's military. Operation Sindoor. In 2025, after an insurgency attack in Indian-occupied Kashmir, India launched Operation Sindoor. Big missiles and airstrikes on so-called terror camps inside Pakistan. And the trolls were hyping it up all over the internet. India's finally showing dominance, they were saying. India's winning. Pakistan's going to get crushed. But it backfired. And it backfired big. India started the war, but they just didn't have the stomach for it. Instead of deterring Pakistan, it sort of seemed to embolden them. And China, their friendly neighbour, they backed Pakistan. There's no doubt about it. With the intelligence that they passed over, they definitely backed Pakistan. So while the Indian trolls talk about the superpower, their actual military performance showed the exact same. Half-hearted, couldn't really follow it through. All mouth and no real follow through. All bark and no bite. So there you have it, guys. We could speak all day. We've not even touched on Modi. We've not even touched on the BJP. There's a lot to dissect in India. There's a lot we could speak about. But that just gives you a little glimpse. The trolls never ever want to talk about any of this stuff. They'll never mention this. So you can scream incredible India. And there is some places in India which are incredible. And I've met some incredible people in India. But the quiet comments that sneak in saying, yeah, you're right, I can't wait to leave. The visa queues trying to get to Canada, Australia, the US, the UK, they don't lie. Anyways, guys, that was just a quick video. If you enjoyed this, make sure you hit subscribe, hit the like button, maybe even hit the bell. I'll catch you on the next one.
तो ये थे भाई, इसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें इन्होंने ऐसी बोली हैं जिस पर मैं कुछ हाईलाइट करना चाहूँगा, जैसे कि हर चीज़ के लिए मारा मारी, ये सिस्टम होता है बहुत सी, आई थिंक एशियन कंट्रीज़ में कुछ जगहों पर होगा कि आप किसी चीज़ को लेना चाह रहे हो, लेने जा रहे हो, तो आपको बहुत भागा भागी करनी पड़ेगी, लाइन में लगना पड़ेगा, बस पकड़नी है आपको तो भीड़ के साथ घुसना पड़ेगा, तो वो सारा सिस्टम है, ठीक है। इंडिया बुरा नहीं है, इंडिया से लोग बहुत प्यार भी करते हैं, लेकिन कुछ लोग रियलिटी को एक्सेप्ट नहीं करते हैं। सुपर पावर कहने से नहीं होते हैं, करने से होते हैं। हम पाकिस्तान से कंपेयर क्यों करते हैं भाई खुद को, जब हम कहते हैं कि हमारी पास इतना पैसा, इतनी बड़ी जीडीपी, इतने बड़े हम हैं, सुपर पावर हैं, तो हमें चाइना से कंपेयर करना चाहिए। इस बंदे ने इसमें चाइना से कंपेयर किया तो हम बहुत सारी चीज़ों में नीचे नज़र आए। आपने पूरा वीडियो देखा है, इसमें हम बहुत सारी चीज़ों में नीचे नज़र आए, एजुकेशन से लेकर सारा कुछ। इवन इंग्लिश टीचर हमारे यहाँ पर ये देखो, फ़नी चीज़ है, मुझे हंसी आ रही है इस पर, लेकिन ये चीज़ है, मतलब सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स मैंने भी देखी हैं। कुछ लोग टीचर बन जाते हैं, वो बैठकर सिर्फ तनख्वाह लेते हैं, अपनी सैलरी आ रही है मंथली, उन्हें कुछ ज़्यादा काम मेहनत करनी नहीं पड़ती। उनकी एजुकेशन भी ऐसी नहीं होती है कि वो जिस जॉब पर लगे हुए हैं उसके लायक हों। मैं सबको नहीं कह रहा हूँ, लेकिन हाँ बहुत सारी मैंने अपनी नज़रों से देखा है। देखोगे आप तो एक बदलाव आया है, इंडिया से बाहर जाकर सेटल होना या फिर बाहर जाकर जॉब करना, ये परसेंटेज जो है वो कुछ सालों में बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गया है, बहुत ही ऊपर चला गया है ये लेवल जो है। क्यों हुआ है ये? क्योंकि यहाँ रहना नहीं चाह रहे लोग। ऐसा नहीं है कि इंडिया से हेट करते हो इसलिए भाग रहे हो। इवन विराट कोहली जैसे आपने सुना होगा, बाहर सेटल हो रहे हैं, उनको छोड़ो। लोग अगर सर्वे किया जाए तो यहाँ पर मैंने ऐसे लोगों को भी कहते सुना है कि वो तो हम लायक नहीं है, अगर हाल इस लायक होते, इतना पैसा होता हम पर, तो हम बाहर सेटल हो जाते, मतलब घर वर लेकर विदेश में। ऐसा कहते हैं लोग। इस चीज़ से हम मुंह नहीं मोड़ सकते। हमें इसी देश को सिर्फ सुपर पावर कहकर नहीं, बल्कि कर कर, सिस्टम लागू कर कर, वो चीज़ें अप्लाई कर कर बनाने के लिए कोशिश कर सकते हैं, हम करनी चाहिए। तो आप लोग क्या कहते हो कमेंट सेक्शन में बताओ। वीडियो थोड़ा हार्श था, लेकिन इसमें से कुछ चीज़ें आप उठाओगे, देखोगे तो रियलिटी दिखती है भाई। हम कंपैरिजन करें तो अपने से ऊपर करें या फिर अपने से बराबर पे करें, तब पता चलता है भाई कि हम किस लेवल पर हैं। तो आप लोग क्या कहना चाहोगे कमेंट सेक्शन में बताना ज़रूर। एंड करते हैं फ़िलहाल वीडियो को। बाय, टेक केयर।